Hi guys, I'm Sulmaz and I have a story for you today. Let's listen to the story together. Eileen. Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Eileen who learned faster than everyone else. Yes, she was a girl, although many of the other children at school also thought she was a boy because she always had her hair cut short. Long hair wastes time, she said. And if a kid kept asking about it, she said it again in Chinese. While her classmates played with rocks and sang songs, Eileen did math problem in her head. At that point, the adults hadn't realized just how different she was. They thought she was just a very precocious child. But as the years passed, the issue became clearer. You see, Eileen's growth in intelligence was exponential. That was an idea she understood already at the age of 8, while the other children were working on basic maths. Outside the classroom, the kid had stopped playing with rocks and started bullying each other. But Eileen continued to sit alone, dreaming of her own exponential growth curve. Of course, they bullied Eileen too. It was impossible not to hate her. When she wasn't telling you were wrong and exactly why you were wrong, she was telling you not to be so loud. Couldn't you see she needed to think? At first, her parents complained to the school about the bullies, but soon they started to think, well, maybe some bullying will help her be a bit more normal. You could have said that bullying grew exponentially. First, the kids called Eileen cruel names. Then, they stole her lunch and tore up her homework. By the end of the year, they were following her home and throwing rocks at her. Eileen never ran from them. She just walked calmly. If she felt sad, she disguised it well. Most of the rocks didn't hit her. Anyway, when a rock did hit her, it never left a bruise. Her parents hid inside. The curtains closed and watched as the children get bored and left her. Then they opened the door to Eileen and said, "Welcome home, darling," and tried to sound very, very happy. Eileen's mother, Jennifer, felt horrible about all this. Before she gave birth, she loved the idea of precocious daughter. Hermione Granger had always been her favorite Harry Potter character. But those were films. And as Eileen began to act more and more like a character, her mother stopped seeing her as a human. One night, she woke up and heard a noise coming from Eileen's room. She had got a chemistry set recently, so Jennifer thought she was playing with that. That made her happy. Eileen had been disappointed with the chemistry set at first, because she said there was no acids. Jennifer thought that maybe, just maybe, Eileen had started playing with toys like a normal child, and she wanted to see that. She wanted hope. But when she walked into Eileen's room, she found the girl lying under her bed, writing in a notebook. "Eileen?" said Jennifer. "What are you doing? Why are you down there?" She knew she should have said, "It's past your bedtime," but she hadn't been able to punish Eileen for a long time. It just never worked. Eileen always said something like, "There are many theories about good parenting, and you follow none of them." And then Jennifer felt like she was being punished. But this time, Eileen just said, "I'm writing poetry. Unusual space helped me feel creative." Then she said something in Chinese. It was probably her own translation of the phrase. She liked doing that. Still, Jennifer was excited. Eileen was being creative. She was a bit young to be writing poetry, but at least she wasn't playing with acid. "Oh, I'll leave you to write it then." Jennifer stopped at the door. She had to know. "What kind of poetry? I mean, what are you writing about?" Eileen replied, again without turning around. "Climate change. I came up with some ideas for how to end climate change. You see, and I'm trying to find the best way to explain them to people. Most scientists never use poetry because they're stupid." "Oh," said Jennifer, disguising her fear. After that night, Whenever she heard strange noises coming from Eileen's room, she didn't go in. And sometimes, when she and her husband watched the bullies throw rocks at Eileen, she felt like throwing a rock herself. Perhaps like Eileen's parents, you thought that the bullies would help make the girl normal. It is cruel though, I know, but don't worry. This is a space to share our feeling. We're all humans here. But the bullying did not work. Eileen saw the exponential growth curve and she stopped it. At the beginning of the next school year, very few children came into school. Some drank from their water bottle as they sat on the bus and found that the water has been replaced with acid. Some found that their internet accounts has been hacked and embarrassing pictures of them had been posted online. And some woke up with a strange bruise on their neck and found that they couldn't speak English. Everything they said came out in Chinese. There was no way to prove that Eileen did it, but just like you, everyone thought it was her. She was very happy at the school that day. She even smiled. She never smiled, usually. She was too busy coming up with the ideas to change the world, all in her head. And that was all she did that day, because her teachers refused to work. They went to head teacher's office and said they won't teach until that thing was gone. Eileen didn't seem to mind. That day, none of the other children laughed at her or threw rocks at her. And when she looked at them, they ran away and hid. By the time Eileen came home, her parents had heard everything, and they'd had enough. The door was locked. They thought Eileen would get mad and try to break the door down. But she was calm about the whole thing. Terribly calm. She looked for the spare key which they kept under the flower pot in the garden and found that it was gone. Weeks ago, Eileen had already expected this. She was always great at planning and expecting what might happen. Much better than her parents. They used to go to the supermarket with her, and she would tell them exactly what they needed to buy and even suggest new recipes. At first they had thought it was sweet. Now they watched through the bedroom curtains, shaking with fear as their daughter pulled another front door key from her pocket. She must have had it copied. Where did she even get the money? Jennifer screamed, but the little girl didn't open the door. She just looked up at the window where her parents were hiding and waved at them. It was like she was saying, I could come and get you if I wanted to. But she didn't. She put the key back in her pocket, turned around and left. They watched her walk down the street and disappear into the town. They didn't relax until she was gone, and even then, they stood holding each other in the bedroom for almost an hour. Nobody knew where Eileen went, but they kept waiting to find out. She was a time bomb. Her growth curve felt like a jet plane into the sky, heading to planets no human could see, to places no human could breathe. Surely soon, she would appear and pull them back in her world. Months passed, and then years, and still Eileen could not be found. Jennifer screamed at children who asked their parents precocious questions. Every time one of Eileen's old classmates got a bruise, they bit their finger until they bled. Brave computer hackers called themselves Eileen, and then they got hacked too. Nowhere was safe because she was everywhere, and she was nothing. Life went on like before. Presidents lied, wars were fought, and climate change continued. But now, nobody could trust themselves or people around them. Perhaps all this time your husband, your dog, your boss was just Eileen in disgrace. Perhaps the whole world was Eileen. There was no way of knowing and no way to disprove it. And isn't that what scientists say? If you can't disprove something, then there's still a chance it might be true. She was just a child, I hear you say, but children are the key to the future. We can only hope they choose the right door.